Good morning, church. A little bit different this morning, a little bit different layout. I've actually got all the controls myself, so you never know what's going to happen. So we'll see what happens together. It's going to be just as surprising to you as it is to me. Let's just get right into it, all right? We don't have Sharian's not singing this morning. We're at Gracie's bachelorette weekend time, so they're actually traveling back from Orlando this morning. I'm up at Staples Allen's, moving some stuff around, getting things ready for this big wedding that's coming. Man, weddings for girls. What a difference in weddings for boys. It's great. Many of you all already know that. I know, and you're just out there going, yeah, you should. Yeah, I know. That's okay. That's my first time. Sharon and I's first time, so we're navigating through all that. But that girl's got her plan. Man, it's her world. We're just kind of living in it. But it's cool. That's what we want to be able to do for her and Jimmy. You keep forgetting when there's a boy out there too, marrying my daughter. So proud of both of them. Can't wait to see what they do in their life. They love one another. Both got good jobs. We'll see. Hey, can't wait. All right, let's jump right into it. Last week we talked a little bit about our take on authority and sort of how we've twisted it around a little bit, and how we need to be looking at it from a different perspective. But I didn't really dive into why I was even sort of talking about that. So I want to talk this morning just about that invisible world a little bit. And I want to see what Jesus thought about it. I want to see what his take was on this invisible world, what he believed in it. Now, I'm just going to say right now, I don't always understand this part of it. I don't get it. I will quote the verses, and I'm sure you quote the verses that we're going to look at this morning, and some of them are really confusing. But just because they're confusing and just because I don't understand them doesn't mean I don't try to lean into them. And I don't just try to let them help with my thinking, sort of change the way I look at things. I know that back in the 1800s, I did a little research on this, with a lot of sickness going on, especially coronavirus that we had back, a couple years ago. And even now, sorry, got to sit better. There's a new take on germs, so everybody started looking at germs and cleanliness and all this thing. And, in our hurricane time, there was mold growing. So there's always this cleanliness, this look. But back in the 1800s, they believed in what was called spontaneous generation. They sort of believed that living organisms could just suddenly pop up from non-living organisms. Many of the diseases were accredited to that spontaneous generation that they just came from nowhere. That they weren't there and then they were there. And it would just sweep through families and it sweep through communities and parts of the city. It would kill thousands of people. But the assumption was it had just popped up at random. That it was providential in some cases, and many times it was God's will. In a time where they didn't really understand. They understood their life about as much as we understand our life. Let's put it that way. But in a time where they didn't understand science, or they didn't really. I hate to even say it that way. They just didn't have the knowledge of what and where things came from. They would sort of just blame God. It was God's will that you got the disease. And hear me. There's a line there. There's a line of truth there. There's this thin line that runs through all of that. Even in your and our lives, the things that happen to us are God's will. That's just all there is to it. We can't deny that. We can't. Just like we talked last week in authority figures that are put over us, that's God's will, and God accomplishes His will through those people in authority over us. But today, let's not start blaming every sickness on God, and let's find God in everything always. But we're specifically talking about things that we can't see and how they impact us, right? But we know now that since then, actually, Louis Pasteur is the one that came through and was like, guys, that's not true. It doesn't just pop up. They're not just not there and then they are there. What Louis Pasteur told everybody was they're there. They've always been there. You just can't see them. They're this invisible part of us, of our world, or on us, in it, the food we eat, everything. They're invisible to us, but they impact us. And you know, today, you and I believe that. You and I understand that. We know it to be, well, certain. We know that there's a world out there that we can't see. Yeah, microscopes. Okay. You and I just can't see it. But we know it impacts us. We know that things get transmitted that you can't see from one person to another. We know that things that you can't see are living on the things that you touch. My computer and this phone, I got a lot of stuff around me. That's just me. You know that. It's got stuff on it, right? It's got things on it. When I touch it, then it has it on me. You know, and in our day, we've got all these sanitizers laying around. Let me tell you, we got more hand sanitizers at our church than I've ever seen on the planet. You know, it's always there. And people are just like, yeah, I need some. I'm almost out. Give me some more hand sanitizer. Give me a hand sanitizer. So, you know, we have tons of it, and we try to push it because it takes up so much room. But we know everybody needs it, and everybody's going to want it. And it's because they believe that the things around them have stuff that they can't see on them. And when they touch it, I went into the grocery store the other day, and I was following this guy. I never do this. He was pushing his cart, and he grabbed the cart from outside, and he pushed it in, and then he got the wipe, and he wiped off the cart. And I'm like, but he didn't like wipe his hands with the thing. He just wiped off the cart. So he already touched the cart. He pushed the cart, and then he grabbed the wipe, and he wiped the cart. And then I guess maybe he thought that since he grabbed the cart that he just cleaned, then that was going to clean his hands. I don't know. But anyway, it's just everybody has a certain pattern because of their belief. This is a belief that there's invisible things that you touch or that are sitting around that then get on you, around you. And then those things impact you. That's the point. The stuff that you can't see then impacts you in ways that you can see. I mean, back then, Louis Pasteur, people thought he was crazy. They were like, you're nuts. That's not right. And he just pushed on. And now we know it. Now we assume it. And we know about this invisible world that can impact our world if things aren't done right, if things aren't taken care of. Yeah, you see where I'm going. You're a smart bunch of people. The invisible world really does impact our visible world. Yes, in germs, but in our spiritual life too. The invisible world impacts our visible world. Now, it impacts your worldview, what you believe about God and what you believe about this spiritual stuff, right? No matter what it is, impacts the way you look at the world. It impacts how you date. It impacts your attitude on finances, relationships. It impacts every part of your life. What you believe about the things you can't see impacts the things you do see. And it impacts everything you do, everything around you, right? And some of us tend to resist this. And back in the 1800s, people would ask that question. You mean there's something invisible that I can't see, but it impacts what I can see? And you would say, yeah. And they were like, I don't know about that. But see, today, you and I will sort of admit it. Well, we admit it about germs, but we'll sort of admit it in our spiritual walk because we like the things in the Bible that are tangible. We like the things in the Bible that are like, love one another. Okay, right? Love your neighbor as yourself. Absolutely. Love that, right? Give generously, always. Right. I love doing that. I love preach to me about that. That's okay. But there's a lot that he has to say about this invisible world that I don't think you and I pay attention to as much. And I know this because our reaction to the things we can see is an indicator of what we believe about the things we cannot see. So when the invisible impacts us in a visible way, our reaction to that, our response to that tells us what we think about that stuff that we cannot see. Now, you don't need a microscope to discover it. We kind of said this last week. You just need a rear view mirror. You just need to look back at your life, at how you reacted to something, or what happened, or what decision you made, and then be able to say, why did I do that? What? And some of us will say the words, what's wrong with me? Right? And many of you do the same thing. Many of us. Wow, don't let me say many of you, because this is an us thing. Many of us will do the same thing over and over and over. And we will continually look back and we will say, why did I do that? There has to be something wrong with it. There's no way that why didn't I see that? Why didn't I see this coming? I can't believe I'm so stupid, right? I'm going to tell you why. The Bible is very clear about why. This is normal, not acceptable, but normal. See, when you find out what it is that's in your life, that's where we're supposed to make the changes. Sherry Ann's been using the words milk and meat. I told you about that about a month ago. Milk and meat, milk and meat. Listen, when you realize why you're making the decisions you're making, why things seem to be the way they are around you, when you realize that, and then you don't make changes, you're still in the milk. Right? This is meat stuff. I'm serious. This is meat stuff. And I find myself milk all the time. I'm right. I love the milk way more than the meat, because the meat makes me analyze my life, makes me analyze why I'm doing certain things, makes me make changes. That's what meat does. Meat changes you. Milk, nah. Milk just gets you by. Meat, the meat of it, the heart of it. People hear those phrases over and over and over. The heart of the matter, the get into the nitty gritty, the meat. This is the nitty gritty. So sometimes you don't even have to look in the rearview mirror. Sometimes some of us, we can just look in the mirror and go, why am I in the middle of that? I'm going to kill a dog. I'm going to kill a dog right now. And they're just barking at nothing. So I don't know if that's bothering you. If y'all can't hear, I apologize. But I'm on dog duty. Literally. Why can't I see it in the moment, though? Why can't I? Because I think it's our understanding of the invisible spiritual world and what the Bible's told us about us, but then how we actually interpret it into our lives. So I want to look at, here's the core. Jesus said there's a guy out there. Real side note. You ever notice that nobody ever argues whether the devil's a he or a she? They want to argue about God being a he or she, but they don't argue about the devil being a he or she. The devil's not an it. They want us to call God it. I don't know what you want to call him. Do what you want. I know the Bible clearly refers to the devil as a he. Jesus clearly refers to the devil as a he. I don't know what that says about us males. Just let that sink in a minute. And here's what I just want to see what the Bible. I'm just going to go there. We're going to look at John 8, 43 to 44. How you like that? How you like that? Now I'm going to go with you because I want to read it. I don't want to. I'm trying to get away from notes. I'm trying to just talk to you, but that takes some pausing. All right, it's not supposed to be polished. Look, it's John 8, 43. What's going on here? Jesus is having a conversation with a bunch of people, and they're starting to get. He's already done some miracles and stuff like that, and they're starting to think he might be the Messiah. They're starting to think, hey, you might go on, but there's a few of them that's like, I don't think you're the Messiah. I don't think so, because he looks at it and he says, look, after all that you've seen and all you've heard, do you not recognize that I come from God, right? And their response is, oh, we don't need you to come from God. We have Abraham as our father. So we're talking about Pharisees here, okay? We're talking about religiously. We're talking about church folk, just to be honest, okay? Church folk who have looked and said, you know what? We don't really need you, right? We already have a way to go. We already have a path. We already have a father. We already have, and then that's Abraham. And someone said Moses. We have Moses and Abraham. We don't really need you. And that's just kind of weird because Abraham and Moses would know that he was God, and these guys who are following Moses and Abraham couldn't understand that he was God. So they start getting into it, right? And he starts taking off the gloves here in John chapter 8, verse 43. So what I just told you about that was right before verse 43. So here's what he says in verse 43. I'll hold it up here so you can see what I'm reading. Here he goes. Why is my language not clear to you? That's rhetorical, right? He's not going, can you not hear me? Why is my language not? He says, because you're unable to hear what I'm saying. You're not, your ears haven't been open. You belong to your father, your father, the devil. The literal devil, right? And you want to carry out your father's desires. You belong to the devil, right? He was a murderer from the beginning, not holding to the truth, for there's no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks his native language, for he is a liar and the father of lies. Okay, so that's what Jesus believed is happening to a group of people on the planet at his time, right? He believes that there's a guy, and I know nobody wants to talk about this. I get it, right? Or some of you don't want to talk about it. Some of you are like, finally, you're going to talk about the devil. And you're going to talk about sin. I want to talk about what Jesus believes, because I think if we hang out there, you can do no wrong. What Jesus believed about the devil is that he's there, right? And that people follow him, right? People, and we all started there. We were born following the devil. You know that. I believe that. If you're a Christian, you believe that. Maybe if you're not a follower and you happen to find me on YouTube or Facebook today, I apologize, because that's going to sound a little harsh. Just dig in. Just kind of hold on to it and see, because there's more to that. There's a lot more to it, right? Okay, so here he is, and he's like, he, the devil, is your father. And you're following along in your father's footsteps, because he's a liar, he's a murderer. And there's a little foreshadow there, because what they're going to do is they're going to murder him. And they're going to follow their father in order to murder him and yet accomplish God's will. Circle that back around. That's crazy. But it's okay. It's just okay. It's just okay. So that's what Jesus believed. Jesus believes an actual personality, a devil, that is influencing, and the devil's invisible. And I'm going to tell you why the devil's always invisible in just a minute. But the devil's invisible, and that he influences the physical world. So you can't see him any more than you can see God. Same reason. They're both invisible for the same reason. Number one, the devil, well, not exactly the same. Kind of. The devil's not going to tip his hat and go, hey, I'm the devil, I'm doing all this, because no one in their right mind who could see the devil would actually follow the devil. Doesn't make any sense, right? So he stays invisible, and he influences, but he never just exposes and jumps out, right? Now, God stays invisible because he wants you to follow him based on his heart, based on faith, based on what he did on the cross. That's why he wants you to follow him, okay? He wants you to listen to what he did. Because do you see me jumping around, killing dog, right? So he wants us to follow, but the devil wants us to follow him too. So there's this struggle, there's this pull, and we're going to see the word struggle in just a minute, because there's this struggle, there's this pull within us to decide which father we're going to follow, which father we're going to believe, which father is going to influence the decisions that we make in our life. We don't know exactly all the time where we should go, but we end up following this invisible thing. We let this invisible thing, one of them, impact our lives at every moment. One of them will always, there's only two, right? There's no gray. Neither, at any time, God and the devil are both going, let's just see what he does. Let's just see what he decides. This could go either way. No, they're both influencing us. They both have a path for us to follow. There's one way that's good, and there's one way that's bad. There's a good and an evil. Always. Y'all all see it. You think about the devil on your shoulder and the angel on your shoulder. That's all you got. There's not a devil here and an angel here and then nothing up here, and that's where you go. It's one or the other. There's this pull. There's this struggle. We call it. In this verse, it's going to call it a fight in a minute. What it means is you struggle which one to follow, which one to listen to. and to see, because it's so confusing, because in our human mind, it's hard for us to detect what's going on. Now, there's a couple of more glimpses into Jesus' view on this whole thing. Here's one right here, John chapter 14, verse 30. He says, I will not speak much longer, for the prince of the world is coming, and he has no hold on me. See, Jesus believed. Now, this is tough. And again, this is where when you come up and say, I got a few questions, can you fill in some gaps? Not really. There's a lot I don't understand. Because what we understand here is that the devil was given power over this ball of dirt that you and I live on. Now, it's a limited power. He doesn't just get to do what he wants. And so in a sense, the power he's been given to rule the world, to be the prince of the world, is through deception. It's through falsehood. It's through fakeness. It's through twisting of the truth. We talked about that last week with the authorities. Same thing. That's how the devil influences us and gets us to follow or to get outside of God's will in the area of authority. We ignore our authority figures in our lives, and then we get outside of God's will. That's the devil did it. Makes you ignore your authority figure above you. All of a sudden you're outside of God's will, or you miss out on God's will, because we believe that God set up all the authorities. God set up this plan, or God set up this thing, or somehow God gave the devil authority over the planet, but it's very limited, and it's through deception. Jesus tells us all the time, he's a liar, he's a deceiver, it's a scheme. Paul's going to say that in a minute. It's a scheme of the devil. Look over Luke chapter 4, verse 4, chapter 4, 5, and 6. Because this is where the devil led Jesus into the wilderness, right? It says the devil led him, right? So the devil took Jesus and walked him into the wilderness, and then he offered him something. The devil offered Jesus, see how it says, I will give you, so the devil says to Jesus, I will give you all the authority. I will give you authority over all the world and all the kingdoms of the world, right? Right? Because the only way he can offer an authority is if he had the authority. Because Jesus doesn't argue the fact that the devil has the authority. Jesus doesn't say, I don't need your authority. I've already got the authority. No, sir. It says, I have the authority to give you authority over all the kingdoms of the earth. I'll give you the earth kingdom. You know what? We'll exchange. Verse 6, I will give you all their authority and splendor, for it has, watch it, for this has been given to me, and I can give it to anyone I want to. Disturbing, but I can't fill in the gaps. That's okay. There's not a lot of stuff on the gaps that I need to fill in to understand. He's been given authority. He was offering it to Jesus. Jesus didn't take it because there was a twist there. There was a deception there. The devil was trying to deceive Jesus into accepting an authority that was able to be given. Jesus didn't want it. Jesus was following something bigger. Boom. When the devil's trying to deceive you, you got to remember you've already been given something bigger. You've already been promised something more. Maybe you're starting to think, okay, I'm starting to put this together, right? It's a little bit disconcerting. Good word? Somebody tell me? Yep. But maybe it's helpful. Maybe it explains some things. Maybe it's something we need to factor into your struggles at home, into your struggles at work, into your struggles into any of your relationships. You need to factor this into everything about your life is what you need to do. Because this moment, when this clarity comes, when you look back, you go, why did I do that? That clarity popped in. Oh, maybe there's an answer. Maybe that invisible world impacted your visible world and you got deceived some small way. And then it grew. Little bitty germs that are invisible become sores sometimes, become sicknesses that just grow and dig and hurt, right? Everybody wants to argue about where coronavirus came from. I don't care where it came from. It's here. It's available. It's on stuff. Duh. Who cares? It's invisible and you can't see it. Got to do something, maybe a little bit. Everybody try to keep it away from you. Hello. Same thing with our spiritual world. The invisible world is out there. You got to do some stuff to keep it off of you. You got to do some things to keep it from impacting you, from making you sick, from making you see things. So this is where Paul jumps in. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 11. He comes along and he says, this is why, because if you read this, it's kind of like, why is that there? Read it in this, and now from this view, from what's going on, from what Paul knows that Jesus knew and believed about the devil. Okay. Here's what he says. Verse 11. I think verse 11 is where I'm starting. I want you to put on. Everybody loves this. I want to put on the full armor of God. Why are you putting it on? Because you got to be aware. Full armor of God, so that you can take your stand against the devil's, here's the word, schemes, right? Say it again. Think about it. Schemes. You know what Paul believed? He wrote most of the New Testament. He believed there's a devil. He believed there's a personality. He believed there's an entity, an individual, a he, a him, who has a plan, a strategy, a scheme, a way to get you off your game. And it's invisible and you can't see it. You can't do anything about it, but you can decide how it's going to impact your life by the way you block it, by the way you guard against it, by the armor that you put on. You don't try to fight back as much. We've talked about this many times. Most of that armor is defensive. Look at that. There's only one thing that's offensive, and that's the sword plus the feet that you run with. But the rest of it is defensive, to guard yourself against the devil's schemes. You know, he's not going to make, because he's not going to make this obvious. He's not going to just come right out and say, listen, you need to eat a whole bunch of food because getting fat is awesome. No. What did you say that for? I know that's what you're asking. Because an appetite is good. They're good things. But the devil takes an appetite and he twists it and makes it an addiction. And it makes it something that's going to impact you in a negative way and get you out of what God's perfect plan for your life is. Desire. Desire is a good thing. The devil just pushes you so far that desire becomes greed. Greed's not a good thing. Appealing. There's nothing wrong with something being appealing, but then the devil pushes it and twists it, and he makes it lust. Lust is a bad thing. Here's one of the devil's schemes. Let's just so twist what God's perfect plan is for people's lives and what he provides for them, that they abuse it and then get angry with God because of the circumstances that followed their decisions. Boom! That's what the devil just did to you. That's what the devil does to me. He gets us going. He uses the stuff that God's planned for us, the good things, our emotions, our desires, our eyes, our ears, all that stuff, right? He uses all that stuff, and then he pushes it, or he just changes it a little bit, twists it up a little bit. And then it becomes something that keeps us out of God's plan, because we'll make a decision to follow the invisible scheme. This could be an aha moment, I hope. Maybe there's something going on in your life right now that you're like, aha. I hope so. It happened, probably going to happen daily. Aha. Wait. What would God say about this? Everybody loves the bracelet. What would Jesus do? Maybe you could just start asking, wait a minute. This could be a scheme. This could be just a little bit of twist. Oh, this ain't hurt nothing. Oh, this will be fine. We talked about it with authority and your taxes. You're doing your taxes. You're like, nah, come on, that won't be too bad. Everybody does that. I mean, come on. It's harmless. The next time you say the word, it's harmless, check it. It could be. It could be harmless. Things could be harmless. But did you know the devil wants you to believe some things are harmless because he's got so much harm planned for you that if he'll get you to think something's harmless, he can sneak in the harm. So I'm saying. See, I like what Paul wrote about the love too. I like what Paul wrote about how our tongue, you control your tongue and the do's and the don'ts. I like it when Paul does that. I don't really like it when Paul talks about these schemes, this invisible stuff that I can't see, man. But it's there. When you drill down and you look at the stuff that's going on in our world, this should give you a good worldview, a biblical worldview, right? Think about it for just a minute. Think about to 9/11. Y'all remember 9/11? Anybody remember 9/11? Of course you remember 9/11. Did you know 9/11 took some planning, took some scheming? It took somebody to say in their brain, wait a minute, that'd be a good idea. We can do some. Allah will be proud. Yeah. And they went on with it. Took some planning. Didn't just happen overnight. Think about the Holocaust. A group of people, in their minds, were convinced that it was okay to kill or try to kill off an entire culture of people. Now, those same people today, Germany, looks back, they're embarrassed that their culture, their country got so deceived that the world would be better off if they killed off the Jews. That didn't just happen overnight. It was a plan, and people bought into the plan. Look at Rwanda. Where was the other one? I looked at, well, we all know about Rwanda. Look at Darfur. They were cutting arms and hands and body parts off of children because they said this will accomplish our purpose. There was a belief system that got into some people's heads that was wrong. Dead wrong. And we're going to look back, and there, I believe everybody will look back and go, what was wrong with us when we did that? Child pornography? That's a thing. And in the minds of certain people, it's okay. What? Yeah. Child prostitution? You know what? It's okay. Look, it's just bodies. Need the money. I mean, that's the kind of crap that has to be going on in somebody's head. And it's an industry. This is not like isolated. It is everywhere. People who think it's okay to traffic people. That hold on. You and I live in a world where our ancestors thought it was okay to own other people that didn't look like us. And now we look back and we go, what? Because what if we now understood that it was a scheme of the devil that twisted us up? Now look, God didn't come along and just abolish it all, change it all. He said, you need to change your mind. You need to see it. You need to understand it. Yeah, he even talked to slaves. He was like, I know, you stuck. I know. The guy who's in charge down here, he's a moron. He's an idiot. You need to understand. But listen, I'm still with you even when you're stuck in this planet stuff. I'm still with you whenever things aren't going right. I'm still with you. I'm impacting your world too. If you'll let me, I'll help you make decisions through this. If you'll just follow me. I'm here. I'm here. See, he screams that in our faith life. He doesn't scream. He doesn't just walk. He shows you his presence in the things around you, in the things that happen. Listen, he also, I'm gonna end this, but I got stuck on fruit. Do you know how you're supposed to be able to, we're not supposed to, in our culture now, you might get this, in our culture, we're not supposed to look at what people do. We're supposed to look at their heart. I don't even know how you're supposed to do that, right? Now, I like for you to look at my heart. Don't look at what I do. I like for you to just say, oh, well, I know him. That was just a mistake. We'll talk about mistakes and sins later. But we like that. We want you to just imagine that we're good even though we're doing bad things. Here's the problem. The Bible's pretty clear. What you do is what's in your heart. How you act, what you say, how you talk is what's in your heart. Plain and simple. I mean, there's a verse in there, unless we've taken it out, it says, out of the mouth, the heart speaks. The heart's something you can't see. But the fruit of the mouth is something you can see. You can hear. You see, the Bible believed, Jesus believed, Paul believed, all the writers believed that when you look at what people do, you can see their view of what's going on in the invisible world. By their fruits. Jesus said, by their fruits, you'll know them. What comes out of their lives, you will know them. Now, I just want you to take that and apply it to your life. You know, you can get as deep as you want. When you start to push back, you're going to use words like legalistic. And there's a lot of legalism out there. The Pharisees taught us about legalism. They taught us about legalism to get to God. They talked about legalism to follow God. They talked about legalism for God to love you. That's not what I'm talking about. This invisible world comes out of your life in tangible ways. You're either believing a lie and you're acting like it. You're talking like it. Look, I got convicted this week about food and drink. I got convicted about the stuff I'm putting in my body. Now Sherry Ann has been this way she watches it. She religiously watches it. She is very cognizant about what goes into her body. I'm not. Y'all know that. I will eat whatever's in front of me. And I got really convicted about it. And I get convicted about it because I believe that it might be a scheme. I believe it could be a scheme. So I'm the only way you can make change is if you believe in the change yourself. All right. It's got to be, you can't do it for nobody else. It has to come from within. You see, get that? You get that? This invisible impact can either be positive or negative. I'm choosing to believe the invisible positive right now. I'm going to choose to follow the invisible positive because your life habits are a fruit of which scheme or truth you're following. Because it's either a scheme or it's truth. Jesus tells us that if you believe the truth will set you free. And the truth of the matter is, he's got a better plan for your life than the devil does. They both have a plan. They both want to impact you. You can't see them, but God says, my son's plan is better. And everyone around you will see whose plan you believe is better by the way you act, by the way you talk. In my life right now, by the way you even eat. Everyone will know whose world you live in. Whose world you live in. That's crazy. Man, I didn't even think about that. We should have put that as the title of today's sermon. Whose world do you live in? Because the fruits of your life tells the world whose world you live in. Whose world are you trying to get people to go into? Whose world are you saying, come on over here, live in my world with me? Well, what's your world? They know. Now can you know? I hope you can. I pray that your life this week gives you many opportunities. I already know what's going to happen. There's going to be plenty of opportunities for you to choose a world. I pray that you choose the invisible world that has already been promised to be a better place for you to live. That the fruits of your life show this planet who you belong to and whose world you belong to. See, I'm giving you all kinds of verses. I hope you leave today and you go find those. Whose world do you belong to? Man, I know God loves us. God loves you, and he has a better plan for you. Jesus wants your life. If you haven't done it, I pray that you give it to him. I pray that you'll reach out. It's pretty simple. You simply just say, hey, God, I believe in you now. I believe there's a better plan for my life. And I believe that your son, Jesus, died for me. That I wasn't good enough to get to you on my own, that you had to give up your son to die for me. That's what we're all about. And if you just pray that prayer, guess what? God moves into your life. We believe that Jesus takes over your life as much as you let him, right? He does overhaul you from a spiritual sense, but your physical life only changes when you let him, right? But you can follow the beat of a different drummer. You pray that prayer. God, save me. I believe in your son. And then listen, join a church local, join a church online, dig deep, get a Bible study, start exploring what God has said about himself and what he says about you. Things will be different. They won't always be better. Sometimes that meat's hard to chew. Well, let me tell you. Sometimes it's hard to make these changes. But that's what we're all here about. Let's make some changes. Let me pray for you, and I'll see you again this week. Not telling you when. I'm just going to pop up. You'll get a notification in your email on Planning Center, or maybe a text message to be looking for us. That's how we're going forward now. Because I break promises when I plan things, and then things don't go the way they're supposed to go. So we're just going to follow some spirit lead. I'll give you notice that we're going online, and you'll be able to find us. Be watching, too, the video that we did. Thanks, everybody who joined on Wednesday night at 7 o'clock for our Meet the Developer online webinar. We're going to put a link on our website and through an email through Planning Center for you to get this week. They're having to do some editing on that video to make it set up on the cloud so that you can tap into it. That'll get broadcast to you or available for you to watch. And when I mean editing, they're trying to get the comment questions added to the video so that people can see them, I think. So just watch for that. We'll get that for you before Wednesday night. And then if you got questions about the video and you weren't able to see it live, you've got questions, we'll find the answers for you. So you'll be able to ask those to us via the email and we'll get them back to you. All right, let me pray for you. And then let's go have a week. Let's just go have a week. Can we? God, I thank you for the week we had and the week we're coming up on. Thank you for today. Thank you for your word today. Thank you for your involvement in our life today. Thank you for the invisible creature we call faith. Thank you for impacting our world in a way that we can tangibly see it when we want to. Help us to want to more. In your name we pray. Amen. I probably forgot to give you an announcement. I don't know what that is. We'll be on Beach Talk Radio, either me or Mally or somebody. We'll be Friday night. We'll be on Beach Talk Radio talking about our drywall giveaway. You go to our website, beachbaptist.org. You can click on drywall donate. We've raised a lot of money. That GoFundMe that we stuck out has started to reach some people, and we picked up some traction. We got about $20,000 more to go. That's crazy. We were going to try to raise 70. We're going to do it. It looks like it's going to happen. So with your help, if you haven't given to Drywall, go ahead and do that. Don't forget to give online at beachbaptist.org. Help support us in our ministry as we continue to move forward and get a building under us just as soon as we possibly can. Remember, anybody out there that's got a tent, we're looking for a big tent, one of those big sides tents that we can put air conditioning in. If you want on-campus services, you got to help us find a tent. There you go. Reach out and touch somebody. See if they'll get you a tent. We're going to need one. We're going to need one. All right. We see y'all on Sunday. No, we'll see y'all sometime this week. You'll get a notification. Can't wait. See you then.